if you guys could please put your cameras on, that would be great. Then let's get started. So, just a quick question, just a quick icebreaker. What would you like to get out of today's session? So I'm just going to give you 2 minutes just to write into the chat. Just let me know what you would like to get out of today's session, and then we can kick start. Just give you guys 2 minutes. Hello, everyone that is coming in. I'm just asking everyone to put in the chat box what would they like to get out of today's session. Okay, so Coach Lav says, understand more about funding. Learn more about how to apply for funding, okay? What sort of funding I need for my business, okay? What funding is and what people are looking to fund, okay? Where to look for grants, places, and to get plugged in to know about the latest funding news. Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I'm building a small food business and want to learn about funding out there and how to write applications. I like that. Okay, so let me just jump straight in. Again, please put your cameras on. It's fine if you're eating, it's okay, I get it. But I really don't like speaking at black screens. Is a put off. But yeah, today's presentation is about how to obtain funding as a third party, how to become a funded project partner, and how to partner with the right organizations to receive funding. Now, I was saying to Alicia just before that grant funding is so vast. It's like 1 hour can't cover everything. However, today I'm really going to be speaking to those who may have a project idea, or you may have a limited business. You're not a charitable organization, you're not registered as a charity, you don't have a charity number, etc. So those are the people that I'm going to speak to today. Later on this year and next year, I will continue to do in-person workshops that would help you how to write grant funding, how to set up your own charity in order to fund, various projects that you may want to run, etc. But today, I really want to speak to those who have project ideas that they want to collaborate with other people with, that has access to funding, and people who have a limited business and want to access funding as a third party. Okay, so a little bit about me, if you don't know who I am. My name is Phylisia Roche. I'm the CEO of Roche VA and a grant and funding consultant. So I've got my virtual assistant business. We do business support, digital marketing, grant and funding consultancy. So a little bit about me, my bio. So I have 10 years experience in project management for charitable organizations. I have experience with budget planning and bid writing. I've organized fundraising galas for Newborn-Charities, project managed over 5 grant funded projects. And also I've, last year I was the production manager for a podcast called The Promisingpreneur. If you don't know about that, you can just quickly go on YouTube, type The Promisingpreneur, and trust me, you'll be blessed. Okay, cool. So clientele, I started in 2020 and I've been privileged to work with people, not just only in the UK, but in Europe and in the United States as well. Okay, I'm all about receipts because there are so many people out there who claim to know it all, do it all, and have the experience, but the receipts, there's no receipts to back up their claims. So I want to show you some of my receipts. So you can unmute your mics, but has anybody watched For Black Boys? Or you can put your hands up, or you can type in the comments. Has anybody watched or know about For Black Boys? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it around.
Okay, I don't know who that was, but okay, anyone else? So Janet, Jasmine, has. Okay, Janet, you can put your hand down. Anyone else? You can unmute yourself and just say your name. No one else? Okay, no problem, that's fine. So For Black Boys is a Amplified said I've seen the ads for it, etc. Okay, cool. So For Black Boy is a production show that was at the new Diomara Theatre and also at the Royal Court. It's basically about 4 Black boys who was battling, or it was a production to show how, you know, Black men can deal with suicide, mental health, etc. So I'm actually a registered secretary for Founders Theatre, who is a charitable organization. So it's a hybrid, it's a CIO. So CIOs is community interest organization. So it's a hybrid between a limited company and a charitable organization. So Founders Theatre, which is my company who I work for as a registered secretary, has been supporting the show since 2019. So the show has actually begun this year, but we've actually been producing the show since 2019 through something called Boundless Accelerator. So Boundless Accelerator was a program, a project that was funded from, I don't think I have it here, but we were funded by a large organization to put together a program which consists of bursaries. So we gave money, support and co-creation for artists and companies to develop a new piece of work. So if you've actually gone to watch For Black Boys in the theatre, I'm sure you might have thought that there was just these 4 boys who thought, let's do a play together and let's market ourselves and put it out there. But really and truly, they were funded, okay? And they would have received cash bursary to push them to, you know, go nationwide with the show. So that's just one way that I can basically show you how funding basically works. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. Just bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a document. Hopefully it will come up now. Okay, cool. So I just want to give a backstory behind this document that I'm going to show you. Can you guys still see me? Isha, can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see your screen showing.
Okay, okay, cool. Can you see me though? I'm not quite sure what happened.
Yeah, you're fine. You
Yeah,
can
we
keep
see
going.
you and your
Okay,
screen.
perfect. Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of a backdrop of how I came into this privileged knowledge of grant funding within the charity sector, etc. So I live here, Elephant and Castle, and one day, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a few years ago actually, I was coming from my 9-to-5 job, and downstairs at my house we have like a little concierge, right? And so there were people downstairs talking about this committee meeting that everybody was going to. And so they said to me, oh, Phylisia, you know, are you coming? And I said, no, like, what's this about? And they said, no, you should come along and so forth. So I said, okay, I'm not doing anything. I'll come to the committee meeting. Now, if you live on an estate, there is something called a TRA. A TRA basically is a tenants residents association committee. Every estate, every council, every borough, every community has one, okay? If you have a community hall near your house, you will see that they will have a TRA, a tenants resident association. They get funding to do your community barbecues yearly. They get funding to fund small projects, small events or small projects like your King Coronation, your Windrush events and stuff like that. So I went to this committee meeting and everybody was just basically complaining about the council and what the council's not doing, etc., etc., etc. So I was thinking to myself, what am I doing here, right? And so towards the end of the meeting, on the last agenda, the chair of the TRA, again, the Tenants Resident Association, said, hey guys, we've been successful in becoming a CIO, a charitable and incorporated organization. So as they began to continue to explain to the tenants, the residents, they began to explain that we've obviously begun to become a CIO because we want to get larger funding. We want to get more than the 5K that the council gives us a year. And so their aspiration was to set up as a charity so that they can do things more for the community, especially for the young children, the teenagers that were growing up. We lived in a very safe environment and we wanted to maintain that. And so they wanted to put things on for the children. They wanted to put things on for the older people that lived on the estate, but specifically for the children, because again, you know, we lived in a safe environment. Summertime was coming up. They didn't want, you know, wrong or bad company or wrong behavior, antisocial behavior happening around the estate. And so towards the end of the meeting, the director now for the charity said, hey, Phylisia, would you like to be a trustee for the charity? And so the charity, so even though the estate is called Draper Estate, they call the charity Draper Together. Okay, so I said, okay, sure, no problem. And so they began to ask me, okay, what do I do? At the time, my husband was there as well at the meeting. And they began to ask him like, okay, what do you do? And at the time he was working at a school, but he also had a limited business called Coaching the Nation. Now I'm going to show you the flyer for Coaching the Nation and what we did, or maybe it's not here. But Nation was a personal training business. And basically what would happen is he would have his clients and he would train them, go to the park, go to the gym, train them. But, you know, he had a full-time job and he wasn't making as much money as he would want to for the business. So hence why he had to get work as well. And so, you know, he began to speak about his the training that he does. And obviously in the school, he was a PE teacher. So then the director of the charity then said, hey, why don't you do some sports coaching for the children here on the estate? Summer's coming up. We don't have anything going on. Why don't you do that? And we said, okay, fine, no problem. And she said to me, okay, write a proposal and send it to me with a budget plan. And so we went home and this is what we created, okay? I'm showing you a raw document. Remember, I'm giving you receipts here. I'm showing you a raw document that gained us 5K in grant funding from Saviours and Honest, okay? So this is the proposal that we put together. We thought about the concept, what it will look like, etc. So we came up with the concept, Sporting Draper. Again, Draper Together, Sporting Draper. This was about bringing everyone together through sports and fitness. We wanted to do it on weekdays in the evenings. We put down how many sessions. We've also, you know, put down the delivery dates. Obviously, it was very specific on the age group. Now, I forgot to tell you guys that the director sent us the grant application for us to actually see what the criteria of what the grant funders were looking for. And so what we tried to do as best as we could is to try and make sure that whatever we were delivering was in comparison or went hand in hand to their criteria. And so unfortunately, I don't have the grant application to show you, but again, I'm just showing you that whatever we put on here was in unison with what the grant funding application was. So it was about children, it was to do with sports or any physical activity. That was the grant funders criteria. And so we did this short proposal and then we put a budget together. So if you can see right here, this budget is, you know, we put 3 coaches down, even though we never actually had 3 coaches in our company. But just in case, you know, my husband couldn't deliver the session, we would want to hire or go to an agency and hire somebody to step in for us. So we had to keep those things in consideration. The equipment, everything that was needed, we put that in the budget plan. Remember, we was a personal fitness limited business. Although my husband was at primary school and he was teaching the children PE, that wasn't what Coaching the Nation, which was the business that we had, was doing. However, we had to obviously put everything in the budget to make sure that that project worked. And so we put the equipment down, we put the planning of the materials, you know, my fees, the bookkeeping, the registration, the safeguarding, etc., etc., etc. Now, I want to show you guys something. At the bottom here, you will see that we've actually put a fee for Draper Together, 15% admin costs. Okay, let's be very honest here. They wouldn't necessarily need any admin costs to run the project that we came up with, that we've written the proposal plan for, that we've done the budget for, and that we've delivered, right? But anytime you are going to partner with somebody, a charitable organization, anytime you're going to partner with them, you have to include, or you have to be considerate about, okay, what are they going to get out of it also? Because the thing is, again, we were a limited company. Really and truly, we shouldn't have had access to this funding. But because they were a charitable organization, they were eligible for funding. Of course, we had to make sure that their fees or their costs were included in it. So we put, everything came up to 4, which again married the grant criteria. The grant reward was actually 5K, right? So we just made sure that we got the maximum amount as much as we could. Okay, and so we sent this over to them. They did the grant application themselves, and we got the funding, and we were able to deliver this not only for 1 year but for 2 years. So once we finished the project, what happens is with grant funding is that you always have to send your grant funders a report of how you used your money or how you used their money. So we sent them a report, we sent them the registration forms, how many signups we had, we sent them pictures of what happened on every day, of every week, sorry. We sent them pictures of the tournament that we had at the end of every term. And that basically encouraged them to fund the project again. And you'll realize that when you do well with grant funders' money, you wouldn't have to necessarily consistently have to reapply for the grants that they will be sending out. They will contact you and say, hey, we know that we funded you last year for this particular project. We would like to fund it. Are you going to facilitate this project again? We would like to fund you. So there's times when, number one, you will make relationship with your grant funders, keep them up to date on how you're using their money, and keep them up to date about the other project ideas that you may have, and they will basically fund you. But again, we were only able as a limited company to get funding because we partnered with a charitable organization. Does that make sense? And so we were able to not only do sporting Draper. I'm not going to show you these flyers. These flyers were made before Canva times, but we were able to, okay, I'll show it to you. We were able to make get funding for other events, again, as a limited company facilitating these events. We were able to lead on other projects, even though it wasn't sports. With the project ideas that I had, we were able to come up with these other events. Again, we understood the type of charity that we were working with. This charity was about children, you know, about community, families. So we had to make sure that whatever our project ideas were, we had to make sure that it matched the mission, the values of that charity, that organization, and also the grant criteria that they're going to get the funding from. So we did something called Winter Lights. We couldn't call it Christmas because the estate, you know, is not filled with just Christians only. There were Muslims and other religions. So we called it Winter Lights so it could be inclusive and diverse. We had donkey riding, we had arts and crafts, we did the whole lot. We had an excellent tea party, and we also had your traditional summer barbecue, which the council, you will actually see it in your estates or in your communities. These type of things are funded by the council. Whatever council you belong to, they're funded by the council. So the next time you see a summer fair or a summer barbecue, or like, for example, I know it's King Charles's birthday that's coming up, there's a lot of funders that's going to be pushing money into these communities in order for them to have these big celebrations. They're funded by the council, but unfortunately, the funding from the council is not enough to make the impact that you want to have in your community. I'm going to take questions soon. I just want to speak about one more project. So I moved out of Elephant and Castle for a while, and I still had communication. I still had a relationship with Draper Together, which was the CIO that I did Sporting Draper with. However, that director left and there was a new director that came on. So one day when I came to see my mother, and I saw him downstairs, I had just had a baby. My daughter was just, I think like 10 months old or something. And he says, hey, how are you? What are you doing? What you been up to, etc. And I said, you know, I'm really burdened by something. There's not many things for under twos. And so there's not many things for under 2-year-olds, and I do something in the summer for toddlers, you know, under fives basically. And he was like, what are you thinking? And I said, well, let's do like a garden play, because the community hall that we had an outdoor and we had an indoor. So I said, let's do something for the children. Again, understanding the missions and the values of the organization. It's about community, about family, about kids. So I thought, let's do something for the under fives. We've just come out of lockdown. As you can see, it says with, you know, coming out their house. Let's do something for the children. He said, okay, what do you want to do? And I began to talk to him about, you know, having a sandpit play, letting the children paint their own flower pots, to grow their own flowers, to have a ball pit play, and to have arts and crafts. And so again, even though this is a new director, I had to send him a proposal and a budget plan. Again, this at that point, so I was just coming to him as Phylisia. I was coming to him as, my mum lives on this estate. I used to work with you guys. I used to be a trustee on the board. I've got this burden. I really think this will impact the community. Let's do something. So he said, send me a proposal. I'll put it to the board of trustees and we'll see if they can, if they'll approve it. So if you can look at this document, again, we had to write down everything. So we had to talk about what it was going to be about. So I said, this garden play session will be for under fives. I had to put the specification, roughly what time, how many children, what's the activities going to look like, how are we going to market this? I'm not quite sure if you guys can see. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. And also I had to do the budget, the expenses. And so because I had a relationship with the new director already, he already told me that there was funding available. And he gave me, I think £350 budget, even though I went over it a bit, which I got told off for. But he already had funding in the pot. So he says, but you have to send me the proposal, because what will happen is once you give me the proposal and I put it to the board of trustees, if they approve it, then I can release the money to you and you can do the project. So of course I had to be very clear on what the money will be spent on. And so of course I had to go to Argos, I had to go to B&Q to buy all of these stuff. And we got the funding. I would show you pictures, but we're actually running out of time. But basically, I say all of this to say this, is that you don't necessarily have to be a charitable organization for you to obtain funding. You know, this is about how you can be a project partner to have access to the funding. Okay, and so as I said, in the first part, yes, I was a limited company. And in the second part, I wasn't a limited company. But I believe that if you form the right relationships and if you make sure that you're partnering with the right organizations that the right organizations that is in line with your project idea, and that your project idea is in line with their ethos, their values, their mission, or whatever they stand for, I think you will definitely be able to have access to funding. I'm going to take some time now to take any questions that you may have.
So there's one in the chat.
You can unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, from Bim.
Okay, so Bim says, would you recommend setting up a limited business before applying for funding? Again, I don't believe that you have to. Again, if you partner with, and I'll go through it later on, but if you partner with, actually, let me just do it now. I'll put this on the screen now. So how to obtain funding as a third party, okay? So I would say to connect with a registered organization within the charity sector that is eligible for funding, okay? I would definitely say that even though in the beginning I was a limited company, but I wasn't a charitable organization. And the thing is that the only pros and cons about it is that the con side of it is that you're not in control of that money. And I'll show you how you can make sure that, you know, you make transparency and trust, etc., with whoever you're sharing the funding with. But I would definitely say to connect with a registered organization within the charity sector that is eligible for funding. Ensure what you would like to offer as a service to the organization aligns with its values, missions. So as you can see, a lot of the things a lot of the projects that I've shown you, they had a lot to do with children, community, and families, because I was working with a community incorporated organization, a CIO. Okay, I would also say, just like what I did, write your own proposal and budget plan. If you're going to approach someone, if you have a relationship with that charity, whether it be the chairman, whether it be the director, whatever it is, have an informal chat and a formal chat at the same time. I can see Moody has a question. I'm going to take your question before I continue.
Sorry, I'd actually hoping you'd finish before I take my question, but what is the benefits of a limited company partner with a charity, aside from obviously having a successful project? Because with a limited company, my understanding is it is to make money, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the benefits. So with the limited company that I had, of course, we wasn't making as much money in what we were purposed to do. So it was Coaching the Nation. We wanted to, you know, do coaching with adults via personal training. Okay, that's all we thought of. My husband has background in sports and in personal fitness and stuff like that. So he was just thinking personal training. But if we never had that conversation with the director who opened up our minds to say, actually, why don't you do training with children? Why don't you, you can train them, but in sports rather than as a PT. And so, yes, one of the main benefits was, yes, to make money, but another benefit was social impact, impacting the community, impacting a people, impacting, doing something for a good cause. Of course, money is a great benefit, but there's other things. Another benefit is that you don't have to deal with the headache of reporting back to the grant funders. As I said, and maybe that's why the director at the time put actually in her admin fees, because you have to report back to the grant funders of how you spent the money, how successful the project was, etc. So, you know, having a limited company and having a charitable organization, there is so many, the responsibilities are very different. So I would definitely say there's lots of benefits. Again, yes, making money, but you can, you know, provide a service that they don't have access to, because I don't believe if we didn't, or if we weren't there in the room at that time, maybe they wouldn't have had every Thursday sports session downstairs downstairs at the estate where children can engage in. So it's really about, you know, how you can make impact and how you can help a community, basically. I hope I've answered your question.
Well, so just to summarize, you're saying there's really only two benefits: is one, being able to help the community, and two, exposure for your limited company. As for making money, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, exposure, yes, exposure for limited, because we also got approached by another community organization. But again, the third benefit is to help do something for a good cause. Again, the money is there, you'll get the money, but I feel like if you're providing a service that organization don't have access to, and it's brought joy and it's brought togetherness and it's brought something that they may have not have had if you didn't get involved with your service, I think that's a benefit. Did I answer your question?
Sorry, okay. Yeah, that's great. I wasn't trying to come in and say, how do we make money? It was more like limited companies tend to be more focused around money. So I'm trying to understand benefits to it other than money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. I think Janet's got her hand up. Or Janet put a question. Building off the point about limited companies, was that the case for Black boys? So Janet, I hope you're still there. So for Black boys, let me go back to it real quickly for those that joined late. So for Black boys, one of the what do you call them? One of the actors or the directors was a part of a funded project called Boundless Accelerator that was funded. So they were a part of this, which is an artist development program. So we develop artists. We get funded to develop them and to basically help them, to support them with their ideas and their pieces of work. And so this was brought to Boundless Accelerator, and they would have received bursary, they would have received cash for being a part of the funded project. And over time, you know, it became a great show. So I hope that answered your question, Janet. I think Danny had another question. Can partnering working with a school work as an avenue to gain funding? Good question. Yes, but I do know that schools are very limited on funding right now. So a lot of the time, there is funding out there. Schools can fund you, but their funding is limited because their funding comes from the government, basically. Just like how councils are limited with giving funding to its community organizations because they get their money directly from the government. Majority of the funders that you see out there are organizing, they're there may be a company, a corporation, or a trust that has pumped money into their own funding pot, and then with them putting that in their own funding pot, they are obviously opening up to them. So I'm sure a lot of you on Black Create Connects, you've seen Lloyds, Barclays, you've seen the BAFTAs. All of these people, they're private funders. So that's why their grant funding is larger, like 10K, 20K, 50K. Whereas councils, they're getting their money directly from the council. So it's directly from the government. So it's a bit limited. I hope that answered your question, Gani. What was the main selling point? Was it social impact as well? Yes, Janet, it was social impact. Again, we had a service that we didn't even know. We delivered a service that we wasn't even delivering as a limited company. But that director saw past what we was doing within the personal training and said, actually, why can't we cultivate that with young people, with children? And so, yeah, social impact is you always have to check your motives. Why are you doing it? If you're just doing it for money, you'll still get funding. But, you know, I do believe that if you're going to partner with anyone, you should have the passion to do what you want to do. Okay, Gani says not funding from the school, but to apply to other types of funding programs to support the work with the schools. Yes. So if you was to get funding from a private a private funder, you could literally say to them that these are the people that you are going to work with. We would obviously have to have a grant application in front of us for me to show you where you would put that information. But I would say within grant applications, they do ask you who are the beneficiaries. And so you could say that, okay, this, you know, you've got connection with this school, this is what they're lacking in, they're lacking funds, they're lacking the specific service or the project that you want to do. And so, yeah, I do believe that private funders can fund your programs to support the work that will be happening in schools. Majority of the times when you actually go to schools, let's say you have a relationship with the head teacher. When you go to a head teacher and you say to them, hey, I've got this project idea that I would love to do in your school. Let's say, for example, if it's a breakfast club, let's say your child's school doesn't do breakfast club, and you say, hey, I want to facilitate breakfast club at your school. Sometimes the head teachers will say, they won't allow you to charge the parents. So they would actually ask you, do you have access to the funding? But 9 times out of 10, you would have to be a charitable organization to do that. Okay, would the project you're wanting to do have to be, Neeks, I'm reading your question, would the project you're wanting to do have to be within the local area where the grant is from, where you've applied from? Again, grant funders have a particular criteria. So the funding that we got, the 5K funding that we got from St. Saviour's and Olives, that is within, that's literally just down the road, New Kent Road. And so they wanted to fund projects around this area. So some grant funding, within the criteria, they're very specific. So some of them will say, okay, we only want to fund people who work with people with mental health challenges, or we only want to fund people within Southwark, or we only want to fund people in Lambeth, stuff like that. Let me just quickly finish on how to obtain funding as a third party. So again, write your own proposal and budget plan. Ensure what you would like to offer as a service to the organisation aligns with its values, missions and ethos. Connect with a registered organisation within the charity sector that is eligible for funding. Have a clear agreement about the funding. So you and that director you and whoever that person is that's going to get the funding on behalf of your project, okay? Because there's a difference. Some people, so for example, the Tots Garden play, he already had funding, right? So I had to work with what he was giving me. So if I was thinking all about the money, 350 is nothing based upon what I am earning in my own business. £350 is nothing. However, it was something that I was passionate about because I had a 2-year-old. There was hardly anything to do because she wasn't she wasn't 2 yet, so she wasn't able to go into nursery yet, and plus, you know, there was a long waiting list at the nursery, and I still wanted to do something with my child. And then I was thinking about other people, and so I approached him about that. So him telling me how much he would be able to fund my idea was something that I had to basically deal with. Now, whereas if I am bringing a project idea to you, that if you're a charitable organization that you never had the idea, you don't have the resources for, I'm the one that's going to bring it to the table. We need to be transparent on, okay, this is how much the grant application is. Let's say it's 10K. It's 10K. I expect 80% of that funding to come to me because I'm the one that brought the idea to you, okay? So, for example, as well, we did another with the ex-director of the company, and she mismanaged our funding. And so she wanted to cut we did an over 50s exercise project. She wanted to cut our project short because she mishandled our funding and allocated 2 projects that she was running. And so we had a bit of a dispute, and we, as the trustee, we had to bring it to the chair of the board. I had a meeting with the chair of the board, and I said, listen, the director's cutting our project because she says there's no more money, but this is the grant application. This is how much we've gotten for X and X amount of time. So why is this happening? And this is why I say to you to partner with registered organizations, because registered organizations who get large funds, they have to have governance. If they don't have governance, it is a bit tricky to, how do I say it? It's a bit difficult to ensure that that person will be integral to you because there's nobody over them or overseeing them or line managing them to make sure that they manage the funds that they get. So I definitely would recommend to, again, make sure that you connect. If you do want to partner with somebody to push your project idea or your limited business with, make sure it's registered and make sure that you have a clear agreement about the funding, invoicing and payment, when do you expect payment, how long the project will be for, etc. And the last point, make sure you see the grant funding they're applying for to fund your project. Or what you can do is research for grant funding yourself, okay? So for example, if you wanted to do something, you can literally research, okay, is there a funding out there for this? Yes, okay. Who can I approach with this funding that's available? Of course, you're an independent person or you're a limited business, so you can't apply for that funding because then you wouldn't match up to criteria of the funder. So you would have to find a registered organization to apply the funding for you, right? But it's your project. So you have to make sure, again, the last 2 points, to have a clear agreement about, okay, if we do go ahead with this funding application, what is the project going to look like? Budget plan, how much am I going to get and how much are you going to get, etc. Okay, how to become a funded project partner? Again, build intentional relationships, okay? Build intentional relationships, have formal and informal conversations on project ideas. Make sure, again, I would definitely say if you are going to have a project partner, make sure that they are registered. Make sure they have governance, because if anything goes wrong between your relationship, you can go to, again, the people that govern them, the people that watch over the funds, the people that make sure that everything is intact. Okay. I would say as well, identify your value, your expertise, and your passion. So again, even though Coaching the Nation, we wasn't doing sports coaching for children, we already had the skill. The skill was about coaching, training, leadership. And so that was something that they didn't have, especially to do it in the sports industry. And so I don't know how, Leisha, can I end this poll? Put it to the side. I'll put it to the side. Okay. Ooh. Okay, I think let's quickly fill out this poll before I continue. I'll give a minute or two. But as you do that, let me just check if there's any questions. So Farah, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. You said our grants very competitive. They are very competitive. They're very competitive because there's hundreds of people would be applying for the same one. I would definitely take a note of some of your questions, because I think the next popular question is about how to fill out a grant application and how to make sure that, well, I can't promise that you will win, grant applications, but I can definitely help people on how to, fill out the questions, answer the questions as perfect as possible in order to get the grants. But yes, grants are very competitive. Okay, I'm going to close this poll now. Okay, so the next one is, identify your value, your expertise, your passion. Again, if you are bringing a project idea to an organization that doesn't have that idea already, you should be very proud of yourself. You should be very confident in what you want to deliver, and identify your value. Do not shortchange yourself. And this is why I say to you, research some of the grants that are already out there that can fund your project, because then you will know how much the funding could be. So let's say if you have an idea to do a summer fair, right? Summer fairs can be up to, grant funding right now for summer fairs can be 10K, right? But they're not going to give somebody who is not registered that 10K to do a summer fair. They want to give it to an organization that doesn't have, that has the governance, has the accounts to show that they're really good with money management. And they would more go with that organization than you, who is just somebody that's just asking them, give me the money to do this. Okay, again, be transparent about what you would like to gain from the partnership. So if it's money, be very transparent. If it's a thing where you feel very confident that, hey, I think this can really impact the community or the people that you serve, or the cause that you know the organization might be existent because of a cause that they believe in, you have to just be very transparent about why you would like to go into partnership with them. I would say have clear and pure motives. There are so many people who they have limited businesses and it's not working, and then they try to restructure the company and make it a charitable organization to get grant funding money. And okay, that's okay, but the motive behind that is not pure. And sometimes grant funders can see that when you're writing applications to them. So just be clear and have clear and pure motives on why you would want to do the projects that you want to do. Any more questions? I know we've got 10 minutes. Any more questions? If there's any more questions, thanks for sharing information, Phylisia. I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. Okay, sure. All right, I'm going to share my, oh, that was a direct message. I will share my socials after at the end so that you can connect. Somebody has their hand up.
Sorry, it's me again, Muddy. I had one more question. Hey. What's the challenging, what's the most challenging experience you had when it came to applying for a grant and being rejected? Or were you always successful in getting a grant?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. My challenge is really with new charitable organizations. they don't have their governance set up. So they don't have 2 or 3 trustees or a board of trustees. They don't have accounts to show, you know, they don't have accounts to show that they're good with money management and that they're reputable. That's the most challenging part, especially when you've got a really good organization that is there for a good cause. You've got projects, the ideas, you've got people in place that's going to help you to deliver it. But because you are a new charity, a lot of the large grant fund, a lot of the funders who are giving out large grants to projects that you may be facilitating, they don't want to look at you because you're new. They don't know who you are, basically. And so a lot of the times as new charitable organizations, you have to basically start with the £500 grants, the 1k grants. And even though that can assist or help you with project, it doesn't cover the cost totally. So I would say that's one of the challenges. Leisha put in the chat, explain or summarize what governance means. Okay, so governance is basically a group of people who is you're accountable to. Governance is a group of people that you are accountable to. So they oversee your projects, they oversee your accounts, they oversee what you want to do with the organization. So with your limited company, you're the boss, you do what you want. But with a lot of the charitable organizations who do have, like for example, Boundless Theatre, that I'm a registered secretary for, everything that they want, every project they want to do, even if they want to put out a new recruit, if they want to recruit for a new role, they have to let us know who, why, what, where, when. It's all about governance is basically accountability. So governance will be made of a chair, a treasurer, a secretary, and a board of trustees who will basically yay or nay your ideas and your decision making, basically. So I hope that answered your question, Moody and Leisha. Okay, no problem, Janet. I think that's it for now. If there's any more questions before I share some of the other stuff that I have going, if you guys are interested. I am aware that people do want to know how to fill out grant applications. If you follow me and connect with me, I will send you updates on when I will be doing that workshop later this year. Later this year, I will be doing, so in August, Saturday the 19th, I will be doing a content day. So of course, I'm a grant and funding consultant, but I don't just do that. I do, oh, what happened? Okay, there it is. So yeah, so we do content days. So if you are a personal brand, if you've got products that you want to do product shoots for, if you've got a website that you need to update, if you need to make content for your social media platforms, we're going to be having a content day on Saturday the 19th of August. And these are the content packages. Grant funding consultancy, you can book appointments with me. So you can learn how to set up your own CIC or your own charity social enterprise. I can help you on how to research for funders. I can help you to understand how funders' criteria work. I can help you if you already know or think of somebody that you do want to partner with to obtain grant funding. I can help you with the project budget planning, funders application. I can help you with that. I also have a funders a grant funder subscription list. So what will happen is you pay a fee every month, and whatever your project is or whatever your charity is about, I will send you funding in relation to that. So it's a bespoke grant funding list just for you. It will be sent to you every single month. So I'll put the links in the chat soon. So that's grant funding consultancy. I also do business strategy consultancy. So if you do have a project idea that you need a bit more help on, and again, we can talk about, you know, organizations that are out that are out there that you can partner with. I'm more than happy to have a strategy consultation call with you as well. So I'm just going to put these links in the chat. If you guys have any questions, yeah, go ahead. I think we've got a few more minutes left. Everyone.
Actually, sorry, it's me again. I got one last question. So
Sure.
this is less about getting a grant. This is more about maybe finding a space. Is that something that you have expertise on? Finding a space to hold an event
for...
or a community project.
Oh yeah, sure. It just depends on what the community project is about.
All right, cool.
You can send me an email, or you can send me an email. We can have a quick call this week, just to hear what that community project idea is, and then we can see the different spaces that are out there. But and another thing that I do want to say, actually, if you do have an idea of something, for example, I know this girl, she has a event decorating business, so she decorates your baby showers, your weddings, your birthdays and stuff like that. But she also has a foundation, a charitable organization that she wants to give back to children within Southwark, especially Peckham. And she actually, what she did was she partnered with Peckham Levels to be able to deliver an event like the King Coronation event. So she delivered a King's Coronation celebration event, but she decorated the space. So what happened is she connected with Peckham Levels. She said, this is the idea that I have. You have funding for the King's Coronation. I'm sorry, this is a bit stuck. You should be seeing it soon. So she said to Peckham Levels, you have the space, you have the funding, let us do it. But what she did was, within her budget plan, she put her decorating service within the budget plan in order to do it. And it was a great day. So if you have an idea that can impact a community, I would say to connect with community halls, residence halls, or community spaces. And once you do that, you can actually have that conversation with them and see how you can collaborate and see if they have funding that can help you fund the idea that you have. So Moody, I hope that answered your question, but I hope it elaborated a bit.
What's interesting is you mentioned Peckham Levels. I was actually thinking of that space, so it really resonated.
Yeah, you should do it. Yeah. So send me a DM, send me an email. We can talk later this week and I can let you know like how you can do this. All right, it's 8 p.m. Leisha. I think Leisha's going to kick me off now. But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I will be doing other grant funding workshops because I do know that it's very broad. People do need help with grant funding applications. People do need help in understanding how their limited business can get funded. I get this asked 100 times in my DMs about funding for limited business. And I really wanted to put this session together to show you how to, because unfortunately grant funders do not fund limited businesses unless you're co-partnering with a charitable organization. Okay, so if you need more info, you've got my details. Contact at Phylisia, contact at rashay-va.co.uk. You've got my Instagram handle and everything. You can contact me. I will be happy to help.
Thank you,
So,
Phylisia. Thank you so much. That was lovely. Just thank you everyone that stayed all the way to the end. If you could just fill out these little polls, they just give me a better understanding of you know, how the trainer did, which I think she did fabulous. And also, Phylisia, if you don't mind, if you can just submit your socials on the group
Okay.
now, and then
Sure.
I'll pin it, please, so we can have that, because a lot of people are saying that they need follow-ups and they want more info, so
Sure.
that's also really cool. Yeah, and really, Phylisia, thank you so much. You've done a fabulous
You're
job,
welcome.
and yeah, I've learned
Thank
a lot.
you.
I've got a lot to focus on, and yeah, this is
Yeah.
just really good. And again, with everyone, if you can, if you want to message me, you can message me, send me live feedback, voice notes, all the feedback I listen to, I take on board. Yeah, and it's really good, and it's also good for Phylisia as well to get feedback too.
Yeah.
So when you get those emails and those surveys, please fill them in. That would be great. But yeah, thank you so much,
Thank
Phylisia.
you.
I'm going to stop the recording now. Okay.
Sure.
All right, and if you could just stay on with